o'clock, so if we could stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, are there any additions to the agenda? And if there are not, then I would need a motion to accept the agenda.
Is there any update on Amy Knight and her application?
No, I mean, we'll discuss we're still in the, we have a draft of the revision of the thing, but yeah, we're not fine with it yet, so.
I'll move to accept the agenda.
Okay, Laura. All right, is there a second?
Yes.
Keith? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, petitions from the public? Nothing? All right. So minutes from July 11th, any changes to the minutes from? Okay, if there are no changes to the minutes, is there a motion to accept the minutes from July 11th?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second? All in favor? Any opposed? Before we go to terms of office too, while I'm thinking of it, several people have said, like Tom, you said you can't open up attachments. Laura, you said you can't.
I cannot.
Oh, you cannot.
Put that
Okay.
first.
I have no problems opening up attachments, so I don't know
Yeah,
what's.
I believe it's something with the, whatever your email you're opening up with, yeah, I think that. Because I keep changing it from HTML to rich text to plain text, and sometimes people say they can do it, then I'll use the same thing over again, like the plain text, and then the next time they can't open it.
Yeah.
But it's something with your, talk to our running tools and ask them, see, there's some setting though when your email those for being able to do it.
So like it probably depends on if you're opening in Google Chrome or if you're opening in Foxfire or Internet Explorer.
Yeah, see, actually, it's the settings within that, not just the, just not the,
Sure.
it's got some of the setting within
And
it.
it's not recognizing the text type, probably.
Yeah.
Some are, some aren't.
So
Mine only opens it, it's called Freethinker, because I have Google
Never
Chrome.
heard of that.
Well, it's on my phone, and that's the only one that'll open up in it. There's Chrome, the other choices are Chrome and something else.
Yeah, see, I open everything in Chrome.
It won't open it till I'm on mine.
Huh.
So,
We need some quick nails to.
yeah.
Well, I don't know, I could we
True, though.
PDF things and send PDFs?
That's what I said.
Oh, you do, oh, okay, I guess I never looked at the
Yeah.
extensions, I just assumed yeah, so I don't know what to do. Except, if you can't open them, stop in and we'll just have to make photocopies.
Or just contact, a computer person that you know and maybe they can help you get we never used to have any problems. The village got a new computer.
Right, and I think that's part of it,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just the age of
It's-
your computer and the software that you're
See,
using.
those are my choices right there, and on my computer too. And the only one I'm opening is this thing. called
Angry.
Freethinker. Yes, that's the only one I'll open. The other two won't open. This is like a cloud thing. It won't open with that.
Can you print stuff off then?
I haven't tried.
Well, I
But
think
it
we all
won't
have to
open.
get the computer.
Yeah, I was gonna say, whoever your tech support is,
Yeah.
if you wanna talk to them, and again, if not, we can always make hard copies,
Yeah.
we can always make hard copies for you so that you have them, beforehand,
So
so.
much nicer that getting,
Yeah, so, the next thing are terms of office, and so you have the proposed, members of the DDA and their terms of office. Tom Bowles has withdrawn from the DDA. So his seat is occupied by someone who is a resident of the DDA district. So we would have to find somebody who, resides, who has their residence within the boundaries of the DDA. So yeah, so it'd be like a Capitol building or a Tom Bowles building, or so it has to be a resident of the DDA district. So
A little map, I don't know exactly with the district.
yeah, we can get that for you.
Well,
Yeah.
Kevin's come,
If you know someone, good morning. If you know someone, ask them if they would be interested.
They tried before, they never would. Do you remember that?
well, now he's trying.
So, and Leo, what we're talking about now are terms of office, and I just indicated that Tom Bowles has withdrawn his name from the DDA, has resigned from the DDA. That particular seat has to be occupied by a resident of the district.
Okay.
And so we're looking for someone who has an apartment or a home, within the DDA district. So in Virginia, we'll get you a map of the DDA.
I have a general idea, but I don't know.
Yeah, but specific, no, I
I got a map the other day, and I went around and just kind of went around the border. It's really a very small area within the village.
It is.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like Virginia, I always think of it as like 5th and 6th Street, up until having maybe a little bit of Oak Street.
It goes up to 7th, on
Yeah,
this side of
because,
7th,
right, because of Oak Street,
Yeah.
yeah.
and both sides of Pine Street up
Right.
to
Oh, that's
Michael.
right.
Both sides of
Michael's.
Pine Street?
Right,
Yeah,
right, the business, it's strictly the business.
right,
It's
district,
all
and that's what it's
that.
supposed to
Both
be.
sides.
Yeah,
So
there is
again,
area.
we do have a map of it, so.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was on Pine Street.
Yeah, because
the business.
there are businesses on Pine
There's a
Street.
business.
If you think of where the camps had their business.
Does it go as far as him?
I believe it does.
Because he said he's not in the district.
He might not be in the historic district, but he might
No,
be.
he said he's not in the downtown district.
Okay, well,
Kind of zigzags, so it's.
yeah, I know, it's
Yeah,
not,
it's not like
it's
straight down.
percent. And that's where you really need a map. I mean, you
Yeah,
really
yeah.
need a map.
Yes,
because
I
there's,
didn't realize it came behind that.
yeah, so that there are peculiarities to it, so at any rate, if these are okay with you, with the exception of Tom Bowles being removed, I would just have a motion that we recommend these names to be appointed to the DDA by the council at the next meeting. Do I have a motion to that
Oh,
effect?
okay,
Yeah.
yes, I'll make that motion.
Okay, so Leah, all right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Yeah. Okay, so all in favor? Any opposed? Officers, we can let go until next month, but we do have a chair, vice chair, a secretary, and a treasurer. I think you've sent out the description of the responsibilities for each. The treasurer should be signing checks.
I'll get a copy. It's all in the ordinance.
Ordinance.
So I'll have to get to, if you have a copy of the ordinance, if you don't have a copy of the ordinance, let me know, I'll give you a
I
copy.
think you sent one out.
I'll give you a copy of the ordinance.
I don't know if it was a complete one, I think it might have been just the membership things. But anyway, so people need to consider, being one of the officers, but they also need to be aware of their responsibility as an officer. I mean, I've been filling in since Mary Forsberg left, and, so we really need to appoint a slate of officers. So that can be done next meeting. On the Evergreen Preservation easement, the owners of Rosetta Cafe are interested in the old Evergreen building. They have met with Michigan Economic Development to determine, potential aid from the state to finance that. The DDA has a preservation easement on certain items in the evergreen, and those include the floor, the ceiling, the soda fountain, I believe the booths, and like the bar. I mean, I guess that's what I'm calling. So now the Hankins have indicated that, you know, they would be willing to keep the floor, the ceiling, the soda fountain, the bar, but there are booths that kind of occupy the center of that group, and they are talking about potentially removing those booths so that they would open up that space. Now again, they're being encouraged to keep them. They don't have a final design, but one of the things that the DDA will have to consider when they do present a design is, you know, to what extent are we willing to compromise with them on, you know, the preservation easement. I have contacted Michigan State Historic Preservation Office. They have some say in interior modifications. Excuse me, I know they have said, you know, depending on what becomes a go and a no-go situation, you know, they certainly want to work with property owners to make sure that that project, you know, takes place. So we don't have an obligation today to make any sort of decision since this is very preliminary. They're still looking at other properties, you know, including the possibility of going down to Houghton. So this is just one property that they are looking at, but that's one of the things that we have to ask ourselves. And you know, if you don't know exactly what the configuration looks like, you can peek through the windows to see, you know, what that space looks like. And again, I think that's one of the things that, you know, again, you just have to ask yourself. You know, it's not like we've got 3 developers lined up behind that building.
I would say, you know, I know that we don't want to lose the interior, you know, contents of that building, but you know, I kind of thought originally that, and I don't know obviously, but I thought part of the reason for putting that preservation, putting that in place was to keep people from stripping the building and then dropping the building, and they're kind of wanting to do the exact opposite. And I mean, there has to be some value in that. They want the building and they're going to fix it. It's not going to fall down. And I certainly don't want to see those contents disappear, but you know, is it contents that are disintegrating because they're getting rain, you know, they're getting wet and moisture? Jake said that some of those booths are starting to delaminate
In the
from the
corner,
moisture.
in the corner, but there's like 2 or something.
But see, I've never heard what you said before, David, and to me, from their sense, I finally understand, because when you go into the back, just before you get into the kitchen area, they had put those booths, and they're kind of tight back in, and they're in the center.
Right.
And if those were the only ones that would be removed, I could understand where they would enjoy the fact that they could put tables, open tables, and have a freer seating. But they would be leaving, I'm assuming, all the other
Well,
booths.
yeah, the ceiling, the floor,
Well, and the booths surround 3 sides then.
Right. And initially they had indicated they would remove all the booths, but I will say, I think when they met with MEDC, I think there's a willingness to keep some of the booths in place. So.
Is there any way that some preservation group could kind of take those that they remove and save them somewhere?
Well, and that they have indicated they would not sell them. I mean, that the DDA,
Stay with the building.
yeah, that the DDA could, you know, I mean, yeah, that they could either stay with the building or in theory be used somewhere else.
I'm sure they would be willing to let us do with them whatever we wanted, because they don't.
And again, I don't want to do too much speculation because we don't know what they're going to do. It's just,
It's
again,
going
that's
through the same process as Lindell's in a way.
right.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things over and over, I think, you know, people have emphasized, you know, especially people who have been longtime residents of Calumet, that, you know, they associate those booths with the Parkside and the Evergreen but, you know, and again, I don't want to get into a lot of speculation, but, you know, we have to ask ourselves is, you know, if they go forward with this project, I mean, it's, you know, what is of primary importance, saving the building
Or
keeping some booths intact. So I mean, and again, that's something you just have to ask yourself, you know, what you're willing to consider, you know, in terms of the booths, yeah.
I think later on, you know, we're kind of a little bit forward, you know. I think they may not understand, you know, the historic significance of having that in place and how that actually is an asset, you know, not a detriment. Sometimes you go in with an idea, this is how I want it to be because this is how I've done it before. But you also have to take into consideration what you have, you know. And I think somewhere along the line, you know, they'll, you know, we're too forward already, you know, we have to wait and see what happens. But yes, I'm all for them, you know, saving the building. The one thing that we have to remember is that we put money into this building
True.
in order to preserve those items. So, you know, we don't want, where are we going to store those booths? You know,
I have to talk to the park about maybe the park would be able to take them and keep them. I don't know.
I don't know, it's just, it's.
And again, we're speculating on
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
that we don't know about at this point.
Yeah, but I think-
But again, it's just something we really got to start thinking about, you know, because, I mean, that building is every year decaying, and if they are sincere and they have the financing to go forward with this, you know, and again, this is an opportunity for us to work with people and, you know, I mean, maybe help improve their design as they move along.
It might
so.
improve it, you know, they have, you know, when it gets down to it, that maybe the booths should stay there. I mean, it might be an asset. I mean, one thing that's gonna happen is everybody that walks in is gonna be asking them, where's the booths? Forever. So it's kind of, you know,
No, I
I think they don't understand how significant those booths are to the whole building. But, you know, I think we need to work, you know, with property owners. I talked to him for a little while, and I think, you know, he's considering keeping them, actually. So I think down the line, I think we'll talk to them more about that design. But I do think that we have to remember that you know, that was part of the original agreement, was the DDA put money into the roof of that building to save that stuff. So what happens? Does the original owner pay back $30,000 or whatever it was then, or?
How much it cost?
It's not enforceable, remember, Lori, no, Jim said that ended up going to, I remember.
Well, and what would happen is, you know, I mean, Jim has said that today they're worth whatever the market would bear. You know, that even though that was the initial amount, you know, that we don't know, given their physical condition, you know, what they're really worth. But at any rate, what would happen is that the DDA, if they were to remove some of the booths, could vacate that portion of the preservation easement to allow them to do so. And it could be consideration of $1, you know, to allow them to do so. So, you know, so again, we're speculating, we don't know, but again, you know, it's, I know in my mind, it's, you know, in my mind, what I think to myself is, well, preservation of that building is number one, but number two, keeping those booths in place is number two. And I mean, you know, so have I made up my mind? No. I mean, and I would hope we can work with, if they decide to go ahead, that we can work with them to come up with a good solution
It's
to
hard to-
this. So,
It's hard to believe they don't see it as an asset. I mean, most restaurants love that kind of stuff. That's, you know, that's a history. And there's plenty, we were in there's plenty of room for tables in the two front storefronts, as many tables as they have now, as many. They can seat as many people in tables in the front as they have now.
I mean, we'll have to decide.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait, yeah.
But ultimately, the building owner, it's not kind of not our business, what they want to do. I don't want it, I don't think we should be
Yeah.
telling people exactly where they should put things in their restaurant or any of the businesses at all, but we'll have to see what happens.
But we do have an interest in those booths.
Yes.
yeah, we do, yeah. So,
Except the front ones, right?
right.
Right,
Because
Those are not.
No, they're
Those are
not.
not,
right.
Can I ask a question,
Yeah.
Mr. Lawrence, since I know nothing? we have this preservation easement. How many buildings in town do we have preservation?
Shoefies, we have the back line of
Shoefies bar.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, that was to prevent that from being sold.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that, as a burn.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the next question is, you said about the roof, DDA fixed the roof, is it fixed or patched?
No, the DDA purchased this preservation easement, and at that point, the Costellos used those funds to put a new roof on. And yes, there is a new metal roof on, I don't know if they did I wasn't here when they did it. I don't know, is it?
But it's
the entire roof?
typical of Kelly that, Dave, it's been remodeled how many times? And it's a high maintenance roof, that's the problem with it. is-
But they did put a new
It's a
roof
flat
on.
Yeah,
roof, though,
it
right? Or is
was.
it
Well,
a-
No, there's a little bit of
Is it
everything,
angled?
Yeah.
everything, Virginia.
Yeah.
See, I don't know much about this, other than I looked up and remember this.
Yeah.
I'll remember the backside. So have the people hit the point where they're telling us that if they get grants, they're interested in purchasing it? Do they have a number thrown around? There's nothing right now. They're
It's
just
very, very, very preliminary. I mean, they had
Mhm.
no idea of how much it would cost. Yeah,
Are you looking at those structural analysis from?
yeah, I mean, that's not done yet, so, I mean, yeah, so they're not, you know,
Yeah,
at this
they're not
point,
there
it's just talking.
Mhm.
They're on a month-to-month lease right now
Yeah,
in their building.
I'm familiar with that.
And so, okay, so they're interested, I mean, they have to find a new home. And so,
has that building been sold?
no, not that I know
But he's
of.
trying to sell it.
Correct.
Oh, I think it's close.
Is it close? Okay.
Last
So,
time.
oh, you know, and
Really?
I think you're right, because I
It's
think
very
they mentioned
close.
that they have had discussions with the potential new owners,
Yeah,
and they would
it's
allow them
real
to stay on
close.
month to month.
Yeah.
So they have to find a new home, and again, you know, they're looking at, you know, and they didn't say which other buildings that they're looking at, but they are looking at other buildings, and again, they are looking at, you know, possibility of completely relocating out of county.
That would be terrible.
Which would be
That is a
terrible.
nice
We don't
business.
want to
It
lose
is.
them.
Yeah, because we have to be careful between, like, I think all that stuff should be preserved, but we gotta be careful we don't, like, get so extreme that we shut people out and everything just year after year goes, you know, to the point we have nothing.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, no, and I agree, that's why in my mind,
Yeah.
it's
There's
preserve the
some,
building.
there's some
preserve the
compromise
business.
in there, I'm sure that we can.
Because they have to pass, you know, code inspection, all that kind of stuff, and I'm sure nothing is up to code in that building.
No.
Oh, they're gonna have the serious
They're
amount
gonna
of
have
work
some
if they
serious-
take that on.
Right,
Yeah.
Right, no, that
I
is
think
a-
they're
that is a
working with
big
Jeff
project.
Rapp too, and stuff,
Yeah, so again, I mean, let's wait and see what happens, you
Yeah.
know, I mean, you know, if you see them, you can certainly encourage them, you know, but again, number one priority to me has to be saving that building, and,
so. We don't want another hole.
you know, and again, we'll work with them to hopefully come up with a good solution, that allows them to,
90% of that interior.
yeah.
That wouldn't be 90%, but it would be
I mean,
something.
if they keep the
Substantial.
floor, the ceiling, the back bar, the soda fountain, if the booths from the center were the only thing to go, anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and again, we
well,
don't know, so.
Yeah.
All right, on facade grant application, I didn't print out a copy, we do have a draft.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have one draft, and
Right.
I have to apologize. Dave and I came the Thursday the first Thursday, and he came the second.
Yeah.
We missed, but anyway.
So we do have a draft,
Yeah.
so we're gonna update that one more time and get it out to
Yeah.
you guys, because Lori found some additional stuff.
Final.
And what I've been trying to do is to combine the city of Houghton with what we have had historically. Ours, of course, you know, the villages has been a lot more detailed. And the other thing I'm trying to do is, you know, we had separate policies for design services as well as, you know, restoration and construction. And again, I'm trying to combine those into one document, so
No.
they're not,
I think they should be separate.
okay. So we have a little bit more work to do,
Yeah.
on finalizing that, but we do have a draft. And so we'll get that to you, you know,
By next time, maybe.
yeah.
I have a question on these applications. Do we submit them to the HDC?
They should all go through the HDC.
Okay.
And that's what
I
the
didn't know.
policy
I-
provides for, that you
Okay.
have to submit you get a certificate of appropriateness from the
Okay.
HDC before,
Okay.
yeah, so all that stuff has to take place.
And I know that in the past, there were a few people, there's a few properties that are in the DDA district that aren't in the historic district, but the DDA has the authority to say everything goes through the HDC. I mean, you can't make exception here and there, it's just, you know.
Right.
But if they're not in this,
It's a
Oh, if
stipulation
they're
of
not
DDA grant.
Right, yeah, the DDA grant can
They can
put
easily
on
say
an
that.
obligation
You do.
that isn't otherwise there.
Because I think that makes it more fair for everybody that's,
Applying for the
Applying
funds,
for the-
I
yeah.
think that makes sense.
So, I mean,
Everybody has
we'll
to
try to
reach
get
the
this
same
out to you
standard.
guys
I think
in a
that's
week
great.
then. Yeah, we can meet this week if you like.
Yeah.
Let me do another
is
draft.
there a number of people want per se?
Well, I mean, Amy's, is there, but again, she's submitted all her documentation. I mean, we can do it next month. I don't know that she's ready to start. Agnes block, I don't have anything on Agnes? No, nothing,
I have a question.
yeah.
Laura made a motion to delist the Portland.
until,
Okay, shouldn't that one be delisted too? Because I got an email a while back saying that those two properties, Agnes and Grill Buildings, were under one $1,500 fee. So if we're gonna, I have that.
Yeah,
I
that's
have an
my understanding.
email telling me that, that's why I'm wondering.
From the Realtor or, oh, okay, there is 1,500. I mean, that's. my
No, that's
understanding.
not what it says. It says 15 for both. That's why.
I think 1,500 is what the agent, the listing agent would get if they sold
Mhm.
each one.
That's a pretty high percentage.
that's
I
like,
think-
Well, I think it's a straight.
Yeah.
It's the
it's-
minimum.
it's-
That's a
I believe it's that
But should
minimum.
we have, okay, my question is, that building is for zero. We were real successful, like Jim Trish, our attorney's, his expertise is land contracts, okay? He's more than willing to do a quitclaim deed, like he did for Jane's property. Wouldn't that be a better idea for a building we're selling for zero, to have a quitclaim deed, and instead of paying somebody?
Well, this is to have it
$1,500?
listed on MLS. This
Well,
is
could
just
we
to
just
have it
put it
listed for
on-
sale.
Could we just have it on like main streets and put a sign there or whatever, because it is zero?
I mean, you
And we
could.
haven't had any
I
takers.
think, there's something to be said for, okay, it's on MLS, but what's on MLS, I don't think is very helpful for anybody interested in buying that building. There's not very much information there,
Mhm.
and for what it's maybe cost, I mean, I don't know what it's, anybody know what it's
Like
just
the
listed, it's just
investment,
mentioned it
I
costs us
don't know.
$1,500, is
At
that?
least 1,500, well, we could,
Per
we're getting a
building.
new website here, so we could put it
Right.
in there, we could put it on your
Well, I was
website.
thinking,
I mean,
that
it
was
seems
the
like a lot of
thing I was
money.
gonna say, yeah, the DDA section of that website, we mentioned this at our Bring Back Calumet meeting, last week or whenever that was. If we could create like a packet for each one of those buildings and have that information online, it could certainly be on Main Street, we'd be happy to have it. DDA website, of course, would make a lot of sense. And then, Main Street, we could put it on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, but something that might be nice to add to that packet. And we'll have those structural analyses done, that can go up there so people can see, here's all the problems that you're gonna have to deal with structurally, this work has been done for you. But I thought it might be nice, because right now, you see one picture of the outside, that's all
That's it.
you can see.
Yeah,
If we can, get someone with a little a little video camera to go inside so you can kind of see a little bit of the interior. It's interesting for people, they like a video clip when they're online, to make that little packet. You have video, you have photos, you have structural analysis, a history of the building, things that might make people interested in it, especially when we're going $0. It's gotta be a passion project, they're gonna have a lot of work to do. But if MLS is, one picture on MLS is not,
It's
I don't know that that's worth $1,500.
no, and it's not been successful at all.
We haven't, I don't know, have we had any interest?
When was the last time anybody looked?
We have some interest, but I think it's another one of those preliminary stages, people just kind of investigating,
Right,
But it's still
not
not,
that that's bad, but yeah, is it really worth, is
don't think
MLS
it's worth it.
the best location to sell those buildings from? I don't know.
nice big sign on our local websites, make it more of a local thing.
when is our website gonna be?
The village one?
Who's doing it?
She,
Well, we have a,
Teresa Ibrahimi,
Karen
no, it's like
Eby or-
Ibrahimi. Yeah, she's in Copper City.
Hmm.
Has she indicated Any idea when she?
She said she was waiting for more information from him, that's what she said at her last
Karen,
meeting.
maybe?
Yeah.
It's not Karen Amy, it's
It's something maybe.
How do you
no, it
pronounce her
starts with a
name?
K, but I don't.
How do you
think
pronounce her
it's-
name?
It is Karen Amy?
Karen Amy? Okay.
Joe, did she have any requests for, information from us that, you know, content that we should be putting on there? I mean, that's something I'm sure we're gonna need to provide her, and probably the sooner we get it to her, the, you know, like as far as from the DDA's perspective, if we want these packets of information on buildings to go up, we're gonna, you know, she isn't gonna come up with that herself.
No, she said at our last meeting, she's waiting for information from the village. And as soon as that gets, you know, the preliminary stuff gets on there, then she can always add, and she's doing it very reasonably.
I've got,
Yeah, she brought-
Joe, the floor plan.
She's really
Yeah.
reasonable.
And is she?
And I also
is she-
have the.
What other places has she
the,
been?
rent-
We're almost getting it free,
What
so
they
it's
would
a
like.
start. It's 50
Oh, you
bucks
do?
to start, and then
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, see, I think those would be great in the
$25
packet.
because she's doing this as a part-time thing, because she likes doing computer.
Yeah, Tom mentioned that he has the, some facade sketches
Yeah, yeah.
from John Rosenberg.
Yeah,
I'm
right,
assuming.
right.
Those would be a really nice thing too, I think, for people to, sometimes it's hard to imagine when you're looking at that building that's in really rough shape. And John Rosenberg used to come up with these sketches that look like, oh, that's what it would look like if you did this kind of treatment, it could look like that, you know, and he usually does here's what would be a minimal rehab, here would be more, and here would be total restoration.
And they're conceptual drawings.
Yeah, they're not,
construction
they're not,
documents.
right.
But you
they're
could
great standards.
use the glass. I was looking at the glasses in there. Roughly three, each pane is about 3 feet by, I think, 7 feet.
Okay,
And so you could, if you could take that glass out and somewhere or another, you know, reframe it and everything, and then that's a big expense on the facade.
So, to get-
The windows, I know on my building, that was one of my largest facade expenses
Was
was
windows.
the windows.
But to get back to Virginia's question, should we delist the property?
I would say, I kind of think we should myself, because I don't know that
There's
it's,
better places for it.
I think that if we can move on putting together some other places for it to be promoted for sale, I think save ourselves the $1,500 that we're gonna have to pay out when we're asking zero. I mean, that's straight out of our pocket.
That's right. Now, what updates since the last meeting have we given to Teresa to get this moving?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's DDA, I mean, yeah.
No, what I call, so we can add information from the DDA.
You can always have DDA, but if you're gonna delist it, then who's gonna take on the responsibility of
Showing that.
listing it and doing all that other stuff?
Well, how often do people go in there to show it?
I mean, I'm showing one.
You're the
Wait a
DDA
second.
administrator, you could probably go in there with somebody.
No, I'm saying, you're talking about advertising it in different spots, and who's gonna take on
Right.
the
We are
responsibility?
gonna
I'm
have
not
to
gonna
take-
start taking on
No,
that.
no, absolutely not.
Yeah, Main Street would obviously do it on their website.
Yeah.
Eventually,
Right.
you know, when we
And-
get our website up and running.
I think the thing too would be, for the agnets, and I already have most of the stuff together actually for 512 Portland, but as more we get more information from agnets, make a, you know, an online, I'm saying packet like it's this, but you know, you're looking online, so you
Right.
click, 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 and you have a link to the, you know, photos of the building, a video of the building, the structural analysis of the building, a history of the building. The Main Street website, we have between our blog and some different places there, we have that for 512 Portland essentially, because somebody did write a little history up about it. One of the park rangers gave me some information on that. We have the structural analysis, we have renderings from John Rosemary, that's on there, up on the website already. But certainly, I can pull that information together, email it to this Teresa, and she can put it on a DDA website, and I can add an extra tab on the Main Street website. The thing is, it'll probably be buried. You know, and Main Street we have so many different things on there that it could get buried, as far as for people to find it easily. But Joe, you won't have to you won't have to do anything with that other than you giving Teresa's email and, or I don't know if we want information to flow through you to her, however we want to do it, but you wouldn't need to do any advertising, I wouldn't say in that way, you know. I don't think we need, unless we want to put it in the paper or something, but I don't think that's what we're saying. But certainly, if somebody does get interested,
I have-
do we want, yeah,
I have a
you will be the
key for it.
person who would,
I could show them it then,
yeah, okay, so you're willing, that would work, that works. So we would probably want to list then the village and you as an administrator as a contact. So other than that, yeah.
All right, then is there a motion to delist the ag biz block?
I'll make that motion.
Yeah, all right.
I'll second it.
Second, Burge. All right. Okay, if there's no further discussion.
Just a little bit of discussion, just,
Sure.
you know, I'm just thinking broadly, if somebody from Denver wants to come up and, you know, or somewhere, and is looking for buildings, don't they usually look at the listings?
Right.
You know, if someone from out of the area is not familiar with our town, where are they gonna go to look at a place to buy? You know, that's my only,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a problem with delisting it for a while, but we might want
Need
to
to redo it.
think about it at
Yeah.
some point in time.
Well, and again, I mean, we're pretty much at the end of the real
There we
estate
go.
season. So, I
Right.
mean, to take it off for the winter months, I
Yeah.
don't know that that's, you know, I mean, we can obviously reconsider it come January, whether we want to repost
Sure.
it.
Because
or-
I just
But
think
I see
that
what you're
if
saying,
it
Lauren.
sits there,
There's
it sits
things
there, and nobody knows that it's for
Right.
sale.
Well, no, we need, and that's why I think we absolutely need to figure out some ways that we can get it out there. I think, I mean,
I'd like to see.
I am not a real
website.
huge Facebook person, but I think Facebook gets a lot of traction, and not just from people locally. There's people, like, we get people on the Main Street page from Finland asking me questions. There's a lot of people who see pictures from, oh, Calumet, I love Calumet, you know. So if we can get that information, you know, it has to be repetitively posted.
Yeah,
People can
and I
see it,
guess
but-
my only other thing is, you know, just
But I know if you're gonna look
if
for a
somebody
building,
who
MLS.
doesn't know our village, doesn't know who to contact,
Right.
they're usually gonna go to a realtor or a realty site, and if it's, nothing's on there, they will assume that the building's not, unless we definitely have a for sale
It's-
sign.
But then on the other hand, if you're from out of town and you look on ML,
MLS.
yeah, and it's, you see, and you look under commercial buildings, there's so many of them there.
Yeah.
There's a chance that they're going to choose that building just from that photo is really remote.
Well, I think that one of our problems is that realtors are spoiled, rotten people, and they want nothing to do with this property. And when you go in that Agnes block, it is pitch black in there. And you need the best lights in the world to even see all the work the Park Service did and the temporary wall built within the building. Then you should take a tour and go upstairs and finally make it to the roof. How many thousands of dollars went into that brand new rubber roof that's up there? None of these things are put on a website. No wonder why there's no hits.
That's, you're
There's
right.
no hits, but who
Well, either that or do we want?
is gonna hold their feet
all
to
that
the
stuff?
coals to do that?
We have to submit all that information we want to them.
That's
to the
right.
real estate
That's
agent,
right.
and they could put it up there.
You're not gonna get hits with
Is it
an
worth
ugly picture.
$1,500? Is the question, I guess, on that, but if to have the building saved, it would be worth $1,500.
Yeah, when you're looking
Like
at it, when you're
that
looking
way.
at it, you know, under one piece of property, they've got a whole series, as many photos as you want of that building. It could be the plans, it could be the
Yeah,
the
yeah, you
picture of
can
the
add
roof,
tons of things.
everything. So you can pretty much analyze,
Yeah.
but if it's just the front of the building,
It's
that's
not
all.
Nothing, yeah.
No,
No.
We
Well,
should
that's
try, we should try to do it on the road, because it's not been successful the other way. The
Right.
realtor's not taken,
You know, maybe if we
You know?
create this package and put it on an
try,
MLS,
and
that,
if it doesn't work, you can go back like Laura says, but this guy has not been, you know,
Right.
that aggressive with anything other than the front picture.
It would be kind of nice if, at some point, the DDA doesn't continue to lose money. I mean, maybe we can list it for,
Why don't we raffle the building up? Could we raffle the building up, get like a raffle thing?
You know, the other thing is change the price. make it $10,000.
Make it
Maybe
worth
people
something.
think it's awful because it's zero.
That's
Yeah.
right, that's right. You look at how people do business, and that's one of the ways.
Sure.
Turn it right back around and make it $20,000.
Still,
I have no idea.
real investors are gonna, they look at what they get it for and what they have to put into it.
That's true.
And most of these buildings are in the
Mhm.
negative, even
You're
after
gonna
you
be
put it.
several,
Yeah.
You're gonna come out
a
with a
lot of
negative.
money in there, yeah.
And then you're not going to be able to
Right.
ever get it out of it.
Right.
And then the thing
It's
though
a
too is
passion
that
project, strictly.
it's very, very important that we find good homes for these buildings.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, not just raffle.
Oh,
But if they may not be buildings in 10 years if
Well,
we
yeah,
don't be
but,
proactive with
Well,
these.
we've had people in these buildings before that do nothing. Immediately take them over,
That's
do
not
nothing. That's why the Park Service had to step in and do these things, if you look at the history. That's the
That's why
unfortunate
the
thing,
DDA had to
Virginia.
step in and
you know?
do stuff.
I did want to mention to the group that, I don't know, I don't think I mentioned this, I haven't been here in a couple months. I did see Brian Donnelly at River Valley Bank for another reason. And I mentioned to him that, you know, we do want to move these buildings and, he would be willing, he doesn't want to have to come to any, he said, I cannot join any more boards, I cannot do any more meetings. But I know that part of what we usually do is have someone submit a business plan. And I thought it might be nice to have a professional, you know, opinion on somebody's business plan. And he said if we get those to him, he would be more than willing to read them and critique them
That'd be-
for us.
that'd be good.
So it might be something to take advantage of, because I'm sure he has probably read a number of them.
Mhm.
And if these folks are gonna, I mean, most of these buildings, they're gonna need to get funding from somewhere. Most people can't afford to do this on their own, and they will have to submit a business plan, I would think, in most cases, unless they have one heck of a lot of collateral to put up.
Can I ask a question? Why is this building been listed for zero? Because to me, I agree with Mr. Hahn that that's a big red flag that this is just a piece of junk. Why was it listed for zero, and what are the big major problems? You say that there's a new rubber roof, there's been some things done, like, why does it have to be zero? Like, what is the building's biggest issue?
No plumbing,
No
no
plumbing.
electricity,
Okay?
no interior.
No
Well, I thought we had
furnace.
The
electricity.
entire facade
We
needs
have
to be
straight
redone.
No heating?
Okay,
Yeah.
so it doesn't
Yeah.
have.
No water
It's a
installed.
shell. It's a shell, okay.
It's a shell, yeah, and
Okay,
and
that's
it's a
what
shell,
you have.
Virginia, that needs a ton of work.
Jeff says it's not even a shell.
Yeah, it's a,
Yeah.
and again, the Park Service, you know, if they did a great job, but they ran out of money. That's it.
How much was that roof worth, just?
Oh, that would've been a lot, I bet.
Especially
The way the government spends
the way
money.
the government.
Yeah, it's always.
But they built a beautiful temporary wall, there's tall ceilings in there, and on that stairway, that temporary wall goes up and holds everything.
Sure.
So
Do
there's,
you know, I mean,
there's,
it's boarded up on the front, correct?
it's dark in there.
Right, I'm
Pitch
just
black.
wondering, you know, if we were to do some kind of a video or something to show people, you're gonna have to either have a lot of light with you,
You're-
or is it
And then you gotta
possible
go to a
open-
neighbor and borrow a power cord.
Yeah. No, they've got power.
They do?
You
Okay.
can
You
plug
just have to
in.
Yeah,
borrow
power
a
bill
light.
every month for that place.
Yeah,
No, they've got, they've got.
yeah, it's cavernous in there when you're in with a
Right.
flashlight.
Well, if you took off the boarding on the
Just
windows,
for
is
that
there
way.
nothing there? Is there like
It's a lot of
nothing
work to take them off.
No, the glass that's there
It's
is.
really,
Is bad.
you'd want to immediately put
You've
the
got,
boards
you've
back
got
up.
as much light coming in, I think. Well, there's some, what, curtains or something behind it? No.
There's some
No, you
strange,
can peek through.
I've never
it.
been in it either. It's just that when you see the word zero, you think, okay, this is falling to the ground,
Yeah.
and I'm not gonna take any notice to it. I agree with him.
But there is some
But
truth
the
to
fact
that.
is,
Yeah, there
you
is.
know, that building, box stores are going out all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's out there snatching them up as a big investment,
right.
you know, the buildings. And
Right.
so it's not like,
And, you know, maybe there would be a middle ground to say, okay, say we list it for 5, but we're certainly thinking, if this person wants it, we would give it to them for nothing, or,
Or some
Well, at least
monetary.
pay the
You know, like,
15.
you should have a monetary amount for anything, you know, just to
Right.
make it kind of
Right.
like a legal transaction, even if it's a buck.
but, yeah, I'm saying maybe we could be more, I don't know how people would know that we are flexible like that, but
We could try
Because
it
it does
that way.
ultimately come down to, yeah. I
Just
gotta
give
put
it a
this
try, if it doesn't work, go back to the other
Sure.
one. But a sign there would be pretty
A sign
awesome
would
Then
too.
we can put a sign.
And I-
Yeah,
you know,
that would be, because a lot of tourists, I mean, if
Yeah.
you try.
Yeah.
And that was something, that meeting I had with Brian Donovan was also with the woman who works for River Valley Bank, but she was the former Main Street director in Wausau. And something they do there, and they do it across the country, is if you have an empty building, they put a sign on the building, you know, empty building full of possibilities, or something
Yeah.
other than just a little for sale sign like
Yeah.
this. I don't know how much we wanna spend on something like that. Mark Norton might be able to print us up something, you know, for, you know, $50 or less. That would be
That would be a good.
reasonable, maybe on, they call it
Like the
chloroplast.
vinyl,
It's like a
right.
Oh, yeah.
plastic,
Yeah.
It's like
A vinyl.
and you can staple it
That would
or
be awesome.
screw it to there or something.
The other thing we thought of is having, if John Rosemary has done a rendering, you put that rendering in the
No,
window.
that's, well,
You know,
you could have that printed probably on chloroplast.
Yeah,
That
and
would be,
The possibilities.
Because right now, a little, like she said, a little sign with
Mhm.
one picture on
Yeah.
something is, that means nothing.
well, maybe I can email John if he has the, well, Mark could probably put them in some kind of
I've got-
electronic
I've got
format
that,
too.
yeah.
You've got
I think
it
he's done it.
in electronic format, or is it paper?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, you scanned them? Okay, I wonder if we could get that to Mark Norton and see what kind of reproduction we could get, or see what it would cost us. Maybe it's not something that we want to spend $200 on signage
Mark,
on the
Mark
front,
works very reasonable.
but he does.
You know those, Windows into the Past,
Right,
Mhm.
posters that we did, that was just on foam board, and then I believe there's a laminate that, I think Paul Grada did the laminate part, and, you know, they're not permanent forever, but, they.
I would think we might want something larger than that.
You might, and it might be a little bit more
More
costly.
durable. Oh, yeah,
And
sure.
you might want something more durable because of the,
You're gonna have to
Weather.
put it outside.
Well, present that to him, they're the experts.
Is
you
there
can put it
any-
inside, but I think you have to be careful about weather, you know, if it's not a heated building, it,
Oh, yeah, it's gonna
Cold.
hold.
This would be
Vinyl
an
things,
exterior
so,
anyway,
yeah.
so Leah, is that something you would be willing to?
Yeah,
I will
do?
contact Mark, because that's
Good.
something I do every week, basically, anyway.
that sounds good.
We'll find
because-
some signage options maybe, and I don't know if spending, you wonder if it's gonna be somebody local who's gonna take on that project, or somebody who's from away from here, who's never, who doesn't drive down the street and see that, you know, so I don't know how much effort we put into something that,
Well,
you know, where do you put your effort, where do you,
like
More.
what, Main Street does with the, windows, you know, that we put
Yeah.
things in empty
Yeah.
windows, this would kind of go along with that.
yeah,
And I'm telling you, that probably makes the most difference in our town than anything.
people are looking in those all the
They
time.
look in those windows, people are falling in love with buildings and coming up
Like
like
that,
that.
yeah,
So
anyway.
are we talking about, since this would be good for the Agnes block, it would also be good for 512 Portland?
Correct.
Yeah, and we've already delisted 512.
Let's do it for now.
Okay, sounds good.
Maybe when we get our act together and something is
Would,
more.
sure, okay, I have a question, maybe this is just sort of like, you know, an out there statement, but you know, the things that we're trying to, you know, to get rehabbed and sell and things like that, would it be worth our effort to at some point in time have like a day where we have tours of these properties
We
and,
have,
you know, things like that, because it seems like,
Well,
they
right,
just
let
sit
people
there.
in, right, and I don't know,
Like, how do we?
how is the safety of, I
Yeah,
mean, is
that's
that an
another
issue?
question.
I think you need a hard hat for
Right,
that.
you should have a hard hat and they, I don't know that it's
We'll
particularly
bring a
dangerous,
hard
but
hat.
you should just have a
Face-
precaution.
So how would it be, like, if you could you allow the public in there?
Well, I don't know, that's what I'm
No,
asking. Because you're allowing the public in there, if like, say somebody is wanting interest in it, you're allowing the public in there, so it's no different than allowing a little bit more public in there.
You know, you gotta
Okay, you make
control
people
that.
wear hard hats when you show the building, have you done that? Okay, well.
No, but you probably
Right.
should. In this day and age, you probably
Okay.
should.
Yeah, I think when Jeff Ratcliffe has gone in there, yeah, he's used hard hats.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's
And
not
and
good.
again, one person is one thing, 20 people are another.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
harder
think
to
it's-
say you're supervising them, kind of.
You know,
I don't know.
The big thing is I
I see
think
what you're saying.
Jeff Ratcliffe is oftentimes approached by and is actually marketed to developers outside the
Yeah.
area. And so he would be familiar, you know, as either developers make contact with him or he contacts developers, I think he brings to their attention places like the Agnes block.
I think
And
that's
that's one way of
important.
publicizing it. You know, because a developer in Denver, unless they have some tie to Calumet, they
Oh,
don't know
they have
we even
their-
exist. Yeah, I mean, is it just by coincidence that they happen to fall in Calumet, Michigan? Whereas, you know, I mean, again, Jeff actually goes out and actively solicits people, and similarly, if someone, for some reason, is interested in doing development in the Keweenaw as a whole, then he would direct them here. So I think
that's
there
more
is,
important.
right, and yeah, I think
Just
that's,
opening up and showing it to
right.
the public.
It'd be interesting to see what kind of development comes into the Mountain Lodge, if it's really a big operation.
Who
That
eventually
could
purchases it.
affect us
Yeah.
too,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, don't know.
Maybe we could.
But
Okay.
at any rate, we still have, all right, is there more discussion? Otherwise, we still have a
Well,
motion to
if this is
list.
the case, then do we need to also just, as an afterthought, make sure that we have half a dozen hard hats? Or 3 or 4 hard hats? Because I know this falls on Joe
Right.
and some flashlights. I've always enjoyed going in those
I've
buildings.
never had anything that was gonna fall off the ceiling.
No, but you know, in this day of lawyers,
No, I know.
Let's check, yeah, let's check with streets.
It'd be
just to have-
Well,
Good
ceiling's gonna
flashlights.
fall, hard hat's not gonna help.
Good
Maybe somebody-
flashlights would be the main thing. Give
Yeah,
everybody a
flashlight.
bright
Flashlights,
flashlight.
so they don't trip. That might be the bigger hazard, but I see what Pete's saying too.
All right, so we're ready to vote.
Sure.
Okay, so the motion is to delist the Agnes block, so,
And Leah's gonna look into the other.
right, but, yeah, but that's, yeah, that.
right,
yeah.
signage and
Signage and.
web.
All right, so all in favor?
I-
All right.
Any opposed? Okay. 512 Portland, any update on that?
Just the roof that is supposed to start working on in September, and we should be done in October.
Who's
Fifth or
doing the work?
something.
Pardon?
What contractor is doing it?
Buzz Johnson.
The, you know, not the River Valley Bank, did give us, they gave $5,000 to that project, and they wanted to do some kind of promotional event when they break ground on that project, so, they may do like a big check that they're giving us kind of thing in front of, so, it'll be a promotional
Good.
event and nice for the building and
And
that we're
it's-
moving forward, Calumet, all that good stuff.
Okay, so the bank is investing.
Yeah, the bank is reinvesting in the town. It's community reinvestment, active community
Can I
reinvestment.
ask a question though about that building now? The roof's gonna go on and there's money being put into it. Is this board gonna look at anybody that's interested in the building while it's under construction?
That's why we listed
Yeah,
the next phase.
Yeah, but I mean, if somebody says, you know, oh, you're putting a roof on, now I'm interested.
No, I want it.
Yeah, are we gonna wait till the end, till it's done and then?
No, because again, Virginia, what we have in place is, what do you have for a business plan? Let's start the HDC, what's, you know.
Process, yeah.
It's the process that
Well, I
was
just
started with the
wondering, right.
Evergreen, and it's a long process, but at least you go through the hoops.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because if you settled on, you know, I know with delisting it, that building was pretty inexpensive. Now that you're putting all the money into it,
We
is the
can
price
relist
gonna
it
go?
if better, different, we don't.
I mean, do you have any like
But
dollar amount in mind for that building?
that money, if I remember right, was Jeff Radcliffe's.
It's coming from
Variety of sources.
MEDC, right.
Right.
So the grant specifically for that, I believe, is for $33,000, and I believe that match has to be 10%.
Right, which was so reasonable.
Right. So although there's a lot of money pledged,
Right.
there's very little
That would
We
be-
only put,
funds required for that particular.
3,000 in
So,
seating.
Right,
Right.
so that's,
and then you have a good building. Structurally, that building is square. It's a solid building.
so hopefully.
Well, I'm
those
just-
generate
Yeah, so
some
as far
interest in the
as
building.
a number for what we want to
sell it for?
We have no idea.
It's a shell.
Yeah, it's a shell.
Yeah, that's another.
It's
one.
too bad that they don't have one of these because all that tin ceiling was taken out and part of it
I mean,
is,
that's.
if you look at the Denali restaurant, like.
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
it's there and,
Not,
yeah.
not from that building, that's.
That's what I was told, that's
Airport.
where they got it
That's
from.
Airport.
Maybe they got it from both.
Well, Earth definitely was strict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, that's why.
Yeah, and it's a shame that when people do that.
That's why the DDA likes to step in and try to help that, try to prevent.
But once you sell it, there's nothing that says that they can't do what they want with it after
True,
they've complied. Because look at the funeral home that's now a bed and breakfast. When the guy bought that years ago, I don't know if you guys remember that
Lori
the
Manor.
Lori Manor Inn, that person bought it, and then after a short period of time, all the leather wallpaper, everyone had stripped.
Like picture.
Elephant
Like
High.
pictures.
Elephant High billiard,
Yeah.
billiard.
That place was gorgeous, and it was completely stripped within a period of time, and then it was resold. All those, like, lights
That's-
from France, everything gone.
That's exactly what the DDA's concern was with the Evergreen. You know.
Is there value, are there valuable things or historic things in there? Like Shooties has a valuable
Yeah.
The booths are valuable, the tin ceilings
It's
valuable.
been,
Historically valuable.
been sort of, it's kind of like the Lindells.
Yeah.
Right.
We got one person went in and took all the really good stuff and left the booth. You know, and that's kind of what,
Yeah.
It's a
There
shame.
is
Again, we're
value
looking-
to those, there is value to those booths. What it is today, I don't know. You know, part of that would be the physical condition of the building, of the booths. And also, apparently the booths were installed somewhere between 1910 and 1920, so there is historic value. But again,
It's not,
You
it's not
look
a
at-
strippable monetary thing like Shooties.
Oh, I didn't know, I bet it would be.
You
I
get-
and
understand.
that's
exactly the
appraised.
same.
I mean, if you guys went in, you could probably appraise the value of those booths, or have some idea.
We did before,
Yeah.
What did you appraise them at?
I don't remember, village should have one.
I think it was in the close to $60,000.
For just the booth?
Yeah. Well, everything.
Lights.
68, okay.
Yeah.
So it was the ceiling, the floor, the soda fountain.
But you have to remember, even Thomas Funeral Home, I saw the check that Jimmy Hurlbert got from Jack Morris for everything that was sold out of there. That was the beginning of the stripping of that
That was
historic
terrible.
building. And that was over 30 years ago.
It was a long time ago, because
Oh, yeah.
I knew
Yeah.
the Hurlburts,
Yeah.
yeah, and that was just a
Yeah.
tragic thing.
Yeah.
You know, like the other, you know, when you talk about his rarity also, there's only 3 places in the UP that I know of that has any kind of a, fixtures like that intact in a building, you know, from that era. And that's Donkers and Marquette, Lindell's, and the Evergreen.
Mm-hmm.
That's rare, so that's
What
an
about
asset.
Michigan,
It
huh?
can be. Well, Michigan House, that's I guess bar, I'm thinking of a different, but yeah, I mean, that kind
Yeah.
of, the Ambassador, those are
Ambassador.
things that, those restaurants wouldn't be the same without.
No.
and that's what tourists
Yes.
like about a town, to come in and go back into history,
Right.
you know.
Well, I'll tell you, the Rosetta, if we can do anything to keep them there, that is like the hub in the summertime for tourists and people
I
and
agree.
whatever. And that would be a big loss.
Well, if they
That would
did
be a
decide to
huge
leave,
loss.
someone else would probably, I mean, it's a going business, someone else would probably open up.
All right, so we've discussed Central Portland, we've discussed the Evergreen. So the last thing would be bills.
What?
The last page.
Let's look for that. How come we only have $1.63 in our?
Yeah, what is our money market? That's what I'd like to know. We have a money market, and all it says transferred from money market to pay this.
Mhm.
What is our balance in the money market? Like, I've never known
Okay.
that.
14,210.24.
Yes,
That's the
right
total
here.
amount?
Yeah.
That's not.
Well, I don't have that.
No, there's.
No, I know, she
Okay.
didn't put it on there, that's why I just wrote it.
And now that we're getting property taxes, we'll be
Okay,
transferring cash
14,000,
to.
okay. Because it would be nice to have it on there, how much we're
They
getting.
did last month, she's the best way.
It's probably like 20.
Follow the money trail.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh no, you'll have, yeah, we'll be moving the cash in there because it's, again, property taxes are coming in, so.
I got it.
And the, you know, the money market, they open those up at a time when.
Where the interest rates
Where
were like-
interest, yeah, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
Are we losing money on a money market
No,
because we
we're
don't?
not
keep
losing
track?
money, but we're making like
Because you have
14 cents.
to, yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
just.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, to be honest, it's ridiculous.
So is that the only money that the DDA has, is what's in the money
No,
market?
they're owed money from property taxes.
Right, but right now, but then the property tax.
We have some money that we have to transfer.
Yeah, and so we'll be transferring, so next month, yeah, as property taxes come in, yeah, we'll be moving money into there, so.
I have a question that Lori always addresses, the meters.
Yeah.
Okay. There's nobody that has meters anymore. Hub's gone, Hope's gone, whatever.
Usually Marquette is putting meters in.
Yeah.
Marquette
Well-
is putting meters back
I
in.
don't know that we.
But
need
Marquette
that.
is really booming and they have a parking problem.
Yes,
Um,
and the
We don't
village
have a
has-
parking problem.
Well, it opens up a $7,000 hole in our budget.
I know, but the thing is, maybe that $7,000
We're
has to
spending,
be readdressed, perhaps, I mean, this is DDA money. Is that $7,000 being spent in the DDA district? And how can we
I
track
would
that?
argue, yes, that the snow
But-
removal in the
But
DDA
it's a general fund.
Sorry, but it goes into the general fund, right? And street department expenses, to some extent, come out of the general fund. And then that general fund also puts money into the major and local street funds. But again, I would certainly argue that when you compare snow removal to Marquette or Houghton, our downtown gets a higher level of snow removal than any of those two communities. And you know, and again, at some point, if this money does not go to the village, then, you know, you have to ask yourself, are you willing to live with reductions in snow removal during the winter months?
But then it should be towards, what is it being put towards?
What if we just label it as maintenance to the village?
Yeah, I think.
You know, if you want to specify for snow removal, I mean, I don't care what it's
Or
called.
building
but-
enforcement or something.
Maybe that
I think
little
it should be DDA.
semantics is needed.
I think it's, you should know what the village is doing with that money.
Yeah.
but you gotta remember too, it's not just the DDA and the money, it's,
This is
if
the
you talk to, but if you talk to Steve, when he plows on the main street, there's a lot of obstructions. The light poles, for one thing, has really made his life miserable, okay? They should have been set back a little bit. The parking meters too, they're set back, but still all those obstructions add more time and more money to the street budget,
Maybe
okay?
it's-
So maybe if you didn't have, certain obstructions, it wouldn't take as long to plow, and you're spending less money. I don't know, I'm just, because I know the lights are their arch enemy.
Yeah.
The
They're
lights are-
Marquette has lights like that too.
I know,
They can't go any, I mean, we
But
can't.
It would be
They're-
ridiculous to put.
Well,
it next to the
Virginia,
buildings.
if we had a larger bobcat, we could do the sidewalks with that. We wouldn't, but again, we're strapped for cash for
I understand.
equipment. But, even something like a
So,
large bobcat
here's
could do those sidewalks, put it out there where the front end loader stays only on the street. But we just don't
So
have
the
the cash.
thought about, it sounds like, snow removal is always this constant issue.
Yes.
It sounds like there may be some solutions to make it better, like, okay, we need this piece of equipment.
Maybe that
So
fund
if we
go
can take,
towards that.
could we take those meters, they do it other places, again, printing costs, advertising costs in this way, but instead of, I know that those meters bring in money no matter what.
$4,000 with no enforcement at all.
So could we put something on those meters, you put a sticker on there that says,
Save them.
contributing to this, we don't want to punish you, we want you to contribute your quarter or whatever we're going to use this money to buy a
Bobcat.
whatever Bobcat, and that is where that money is directly going. Because people do not like to pay those meters, but I think people would like to say, hey,
I'm
snow
helping.
removal is an issue,
Yeah.
I'm helping with that issue.
Or maybe just something a little bit, maybe a little general about you helping something in county.
But I think a very specific thing is what people, they want to know exactly where that money is going. And if that's a specific item that would definitely make a difference, could
Well,
we do?
You could do
Leah,
it, let's say,
that's very clever
preserving the
because
architecture.
how many people say, I'm never coming to Calumet in the winter because the roads are so bad?
Yes, I've heard that.
Yeah.
Like, and I've heard the first thing that somebody told me when I became Main Street Director was, those blankety blank meters, I never am gonna shop in downtown Calumet because I'm not paying, last time I got a ticket, and
Yeah.
I know they're not being monitored, but that person was so sour about getting a ticket in our tiny little town. I mean,
Yeah.
that was the first thing
I
somebody
think-
told me, that's the first thing on their mind, was to tell me that, you know? I'm never coming to
Yeah,
downtown.
that's why you rarely see meters anymore in a lot of small towns.
You just don't.
It's because it just,
Though, on
Yeah.
the
So
other hand,
maybe
like-
we have to
it just
rethink
drives
that.
away customers.
Instead of, I mean,
Because
No.
Marquette is a city, you know, they're the city of Marquette, we're a little village, you
Well,
know.
how much do you make up meters? 4,000?
4,000.
Pure
no,
profit.
we would not. The
And then
thing
we
is,
have to-
what do we want to do in our town?
They need the money.
Right.
I know, but they get money for everything
And
else.
just remember, Houghton is not completely free either. If you're a
No, no,
merchant
it's not.
and you're parking
Okay.
your car on those decks, what is it, 30 a month? I think it's 30 a month to park your car for long-term periods on those decks.
So
Now,
so this $600
Or
is,
something like that.
That's winter parking.
no, this is summer, this is if you're
Yeah,
a merchant,
yeah, emergency.
if you park your car for more than 2 hours,
Yeah.
you have to buy a permit from the
Yeah.
city of Houghton.
That's
So they
something we
do,
could make
they
some-
do raise revenue from parking, so it's not.
You're never gonna do that in Calumet because the
And
merchants are not
and I
gonna do that.
agree, and I agree.
Like
And I-
Lori's
well, they
not
can
gonna
go-
pay
They can go, they can go
They
to
got to
Fourth
pay
Street.
$150 a year.
I understand.
I get it every year.
But you can go to Fourth Street and park for free, you're right.
so maybe
Well, we
what we
gotta-
could say is, if we could do something like that, like I'm talking about with the meters, maybe we say, after $4,000, we use it to go to a specific project.
It'd be nice.
Because I understand you need them, the village needs money to come, and I totally get that.
But you don't wanna turn people off, that, because
That's
one,
right.
one crappy thing, like I got a ticket, is going to wipe out 100 good things that this village has to offer. You know,
But
that's
it's
the
been
problem.
over 2 years since we've been enforcing.
Okay, how much did we
meters.
pay the enforcement guy as opposed to how much we brought in? Did it like wipe itself out?
More than we used to bring in when there was enforcement, and we probably still have the Excel spreadsheets. I think there was a time when we had gross revenues that close to $15,000, and after paying someone to monitor the meters, we brought in between 10 and 11,000.
Okay, but now things have changed here because there's not as many businesses, you know, what we're trying to.
Or,
Like
it's
how
not
much-
as much enforcement.
I don't know,
So now we're-
that's since I've been here.
There aren't as many fines, revenue.
Not as many fines.
The revenue from fines is what, I think, make most of that up.
And that's when the DDA stepped in because people were so angry.
I agree with
They
you
had to
100%.
buy that would wait
Yeah,
for
we-
people
yeah,
and
we-
launch.
yeah.
Well, let me tell you something about the guy that they hired. I had a little problem with him. I pulled up to the post office, and it was winter time, and I know which guy you're talking about. And a car was parked in front of me, and there was ample space from the corner to where the guy was parked in the truck for handicap, because the sign is on the pole. It shouldn't really be like that. Okay, so the guy starts, the employee starts screaming at the guy that parked the truck there that he knows where the line is, and you know, you're parked in the handicap. And he was like screaming at this guy, and this guy was like, I'm sorry, but you know, the sign is way over there and whatever. So I came down here and I talked to Dave Alton, and I said, that guy, for whatever reason, just went off on this guy, like on this power trip about how he knows where this line is, and that's inappropriate. And the guy in the truck never said anything, oh, I'm sorry, I'll move it, and whatever, and he really wasn't in violation. He might have been over 2 feet, but you couldn't see where it was. It was a terrible experience for the guy at the post
So
office.
what I'm saying is when they set the bar, when they set the bar at and decided the DDA needs to make up this amount of money, it was at a point where people were leaving town because of parking.
I
You know,
Why
the
do you want to
enforcement.
remove it, Lauren?
Huh?
Why do you want to remove the money?
no, the meters she's talking about.
No, I'm just saying that, they're saying they made all this money, but it was not doing the village good.
No.
They could have made more if people, so she's saying people, if they, you know, didn't get mad about the meters, they may have gone, you know, they might have come here more often. I don't know. We'd have to do a study on that.
So moving forward, I will ask Mark and Mark if there's any kind of, something that we could print, that we could fit on there, what it would cost us, and maybe that is an option that we can think about in moving forward,
I
because this
think
parking meter issue.
To
is
table
a
that
constant
way
issue.
is perfect.
We'll see what we can do with that.
Did you ever think too that, you know, the meters might be like sort of a high ticket for people to buy them if you sold them?
I wondered about
You know, because they're,
Like,
you
how much
know,
could you say they're unique? Could you
they're
sell
very
them
unique. You
or-
might be able to sell them and raise a lot of money, because eventually these things are gonna start freezing up more, not working, and they're just gonna be like, you know, things sitting on the sidewalk. Because if you were to go around right now and say how many of these are working meters, how many are working meters, anybody know? Because there's some that are not working meters. They're just not,
And they can be repaired.
and they're never gonna be repaired. So do you wanna wait till they just all sort of fall apart, or, you know, I don't know.
Right. That's something to Google or look on eBay. Have you guys got any idea about what you can get for a parking meter?
So they're
Some-
$50.
College student, or, you know, somebody that has like a
Okay.
trendy apartment would like that.
$150 a meter. Anybody know how many meters we have? Just,
A lot.
all right, well, let's table
So,
that.
we can do this in August, so. All right, then, is there a motion to pay the bills?
Yes.
Ms. Peter? All right, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Leah? Then let's do a roll call, so Verge?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Leah?
Yes.
Tom? Pete?
Yes.
Lori? And I'm a yes.
Next to my side of the
All
harbor.
right, and finally, is there a motion to adjourn?
You're talking about the website, sorry.
Okay.
Is there somebody that wants to kind of be the POC for the employees providing DDA information for the website? Because, you know, because I'm not, HCC is going to be the same thing. They're going to have a link on there. They're going to be providing information on it. Probably the planning commission is also, and so there's going to be quite a few inputs, and a lot easier if we kind of spread the wealth of that.
I could do that.
Well, I have a comment on that. You're the administrator, you're getting paid to be the administrator. Why can't they just give you all the information you give it to them? Because you know.
Well, it's
this is
easier
a
not to
paying
have a
job.
pass-through, right, but it's easier not to have a pass-through. I mean,
Well, is it?
you know, and there's limits. I mean, Joe can only do so much.
I think if we put that up, we'd have to give more money.
Pardon me?
Why
They
would
said
you
we'd
have
have
to
to give you more money.
Why would we have to give them more money?
Yeah.
That's
You
right.
can-
And I guess my other thought is this group should have some, we should have some responsibilities besides showing up for this meeting. I mean, I would think that that's how this is, I don't know, maybe that's not how it's intended.
Well, and what group better, you know, rather than having it come back and say, Joe, why didn't you do this? You represent the DDA and say, this is what the DDA would like to see on this, rather than somebody else interpreting what the DDA wants.
Okay, then let me ask you a question. If this girl is charging the village of Calumet $25 to maintain it, is she gonna want to maintain it for the DDA, Main Street, everybody putting stuff? We might have to pay her more. If it's coming from one thing, yeah, if it's coming from just one thing, I don't know.
Well, and this is kind of like, what do we want it on it initially? I'm assuming that once it's up and running, we will be able to upload the
So I
information ourselves.
think
like
usually,
this.
you know, like, I know for the township,
Like Beth is able to,
well, when we were doing stuff for the Big 150, I know Deb just had me, just please email that to their web guy, who they have a contract with for whatever. So I don't know that it necessarily matters. Typically, it may be different with this woman, but who the information is coming from, if it's for that website, that's how it becomes in the contract for the township works. Now, I don't know what
Who
this
does
is.
their website? I mean, they do a nice job.
Oh,
It's a local.
Is it that Opus?
No, it's,
no.
oh, I can't think, Marcia Primo's son.
Opus Web.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what it is,
They do
yeah.
a nice job.
He's pricey though.
Yeah.
He is.
He's in that D&N, the old D&N building in Hancock, yes, it's less than.
But anyway, that's who I emailed stuff to, and he would just automatically, he would take care of it, put it out there, whatever.
Professional.
Well, it depends how much you want to spend. We need to start somewhere.
And that's good, we're starting, and that's the biggest.
Yeah, the big thing is
biggest
doing
thing.
something.
And for getting her information for right now, for getting us started,
Mhm.
I think that'll work.
Well, we have to get the basic, you know, the thing up and running before we
Yeah.
talk about
Yeah.
information, because we don't have that even yet.
Right,
Do you think that's gonna be up and running by the time we have our next meeting?
I don't know. That's what Mr. Burns.
Mm.
right. Yes, sir,
But she could have it up and running with, you know, whatever she's got now, to kind of, you know, what the limitations negotiation part, what you want on it.
Does
If
she
you want to
have,
throw something up that's very limited, and somebody starts looking at it, and oh, great, well, this, piece of junk, or they won't wait till we have something that's more substantial.
Yes.
Right.
have we provided everything she's asked for?
I provided as much as I can. I can't, I haven't provided her, again, this is not a discussion for the DDA, but I haven't provided her all the ordinances, and I haven't provided her all the minutes and all that stuff, because that's all takes time.
It'll have to be scanned, I'm assuming a lot of
Yeah.
stuff.
Right, and is it
Yeah,
legible?
that's a huge
Is it
amount of,
legible?
yeah. But the stuff that we want, I mean, the DDA, the things that the DDA would like, everything we probably want, whatever our ordinances, the thing you sent me. So I have that, and then we want probably our little packets for the buildings that we'll be working on, putting those together.
Minutes, obviously, a schedule of meetings.
Our schedule of meetings and maybe minutes, probably eventually, but maybe minutes going forward, because
Yeah,
maybe
not
they'll be
that way.
electronic. I don't know.
Yeah, we would have
We have
minutes.
minutes electronically now,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. and-
whatever from
and going back.
past years, I don't know, but that kind of stuff isn't, that's an easy click thing, that's not a scan,
Right,
restaple, dig out, that's a huge.
I say, if he is willing to be the contact person for
Yeah.
DDA, I would motion it.
Because really, there's not that, I mean, to start with, we don't have a huge ton of stuff to put out there.
I make a motion.
Yeah, just start with something and then you can add, don't.
Right, I mean,
Right.
basic
We have
knowledge.
something.
So Lori has made a motion to appoint Leah as the point of contact for the village website. Is there a second? Right. If there's no further discussion, all in favor? All opposed? Finally, is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Is there a second? Sorry. Lori, did you second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
If I get a draft, you this week. Well, we can set up a meeting date.
Me and let's get the tenant date.
Actually, one after down the street
This Friday.
who wanted to make it
I think I could.
blue.
but-
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so I let it drop.